All right, we ready to rock and roll
Okay,
with this thing? Let's have some fun.
let's go, man. Today's guest is LaMichelle Hecht. I think I pronounced it correctly. Yes, thumbs
Yes.
up if I pronounced it correctly. All right.
Yes.
A seasoned CPA and founder of Overhead Solutions Group with over a decade experience across government, nonprofits and business. She's all about simplifying financials, ensuring compliance, and helping mission-driven leaders make smarter decisions. Michelle, welcome to Strategy Shift Podcast. So I
Thank
want
you.
to kick us off. I thought we had a great meeting, and you mentioned you found a note, right? Why don't you tell us that story? When you were cleaning up, you found a note about something you wrote when you were a teenager.
Oh, yes, I love that story. Okay.
Yeah.
It was probably like 2019 or it was pre-pandemic. So it had to be 2019 or early 2020. I was at my old home I grew up in my bedroom just looking at some stuff and I found like this folder and in high school I studied abroad in Spain and I wrote letters to all the local businesses and everyone to fundraise money for the trip. And in the letter I put my ultimate goal was to be bilingual because I wanted to be a CEO of a CPA firm and with the world globalizing, this would be a great skill to have. So the funny thing is, I forgot all about that until I read the letter. I didn't realize this is something I wanted to do since I was like 16, which is kind of funny.
Wow.
I I love that. And having vision at an early age and then seeing it through is something that you definitely do not get a chance to witness too often. So, yeah, I can certainly applaud. That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, LaMichelle, we had you and I had a discussion, right? And we were talking about some of the things that you really stand for with regard to there are a ton of folks in the accounting lane, right? But you
Mhm.
really made your business built off of a model that speaks to a specific target audience, but then tweaked your own model so that your margins were way higher and set up for success, which is the exact same thing that you preach and practice for your client engagements. Tell us a little bit about the journey, how you tried one or two different models, had to shift it, and really find the model that worked for you.
Yes, Overhead Solutions Group now is significantly different than what it was when I started it 5 years ago. Um, so one thing that's big for me that I've noticed is margins and how my business is doing. So when I
Hmm.
first started the business, probably like a lot of businesses, I just wanted anybody. If you're willing to pay, I would let people negotiate, to the bare bone where maybe I'm not even making money. And then after a little while, I realized this is not working, this is not sustainable. So I redid my pricing model. And I would say about 2 years ago, I decided to really lean into a niche. So my main niche is like nonprofits and real estate investors and developers. So I leaned into the niche. I was bringing in a lot of money, but it still wasn't working. Like I was not making as much as I was making before I started my own business. My margins were razor thin. By razor thin, I mean like 1 to 5%, like razor. So then about a
Wow.
year ago, I decided, okay, my ultimate goal is to grow this business and sell it and be a venture capitalist. Like that's my long-term goal. So what I decided to do was, okay, I need to really reevaluate how I'm doing business. Why are my margins so low? Um, so one of the things is I did SOPs and I decided to centralize everything. Everything we do has to go through a centralized process. Everyone is assigned to something, everyone has their role, everyone has their hat, and there's no ambiguity. And another thing I did about a year ago was I actually let go of all of my staff and I started anew with all new
Ouch.
people. And just doing that, that helps shift my business from 1 to 5%, margins to now where I'm consistently getting, my worst month is probably 39% margin, up to like 50% or more margin. And one thing that really helped was in the United States, there is a shortage of CPAs. 75% of us are boomers or older. I am not a boomer, but 75% are. So I decided, if I really want to do this, I need to have staff. Who's going to want to buy a business that everyone's overwhelmed and working all the time? So I decided I tried the Philippines and other places, it didn't work. So I decided to go with Mexico. And with Mexico, it tends to be a lot easier for me. A lot of them well, all of them I have worked for me. They speak very good English. Some of them don't even necessarily have accents. The wages are significantly cheaper, like less than 50% of the wages in the United States. And and they're in the same time zone. The culture is a lot more similar. So that's one of the things
Mhm.
that really helped build my margin. So I decided, okay, the way I'm going to set it up, like right now, I have 4 people from Mexico. So about half of my staff is US based, accountants and CPAs, and then the other half are people in Mexico. And my goal is to build my business that way where I build a strong team in Mexico. Cause like I say, the wages, maybe 20% of the US wages.
Right.
And then
And
also
you also
have,
talked about for a small business owner, or for small business owners, I think one of the things that I really resonated with me when we met was one of the services you do is you'll go in and analyze their revenue, right? Which that doesn't necessarily translate into profit. I think there's a misconception if I just drive revenue, my margins and my net income will automatically increase. And you said, no, that's not the case. And in fact, you went in, I think it was a transportation company, right, where you segmented all their types of transportation, and then you pointed out to them, hey, these routes you're losing money, and then you made them
yes.
just tell us that story.
Yeah, so that is correct. What's the saying? Like revenue is vanity, like your net income is sanity. So this is how it
I
works.
like that.
I worked with a lot. I've worked with a lot of companies, but yes, one specific transportation company, they were bringing in, 7 figures in income, and for some reason they were not making. The bottom line is they weren't making money.
And in fact, you
She
told me
wasn't
they
able
were
to pay
losing money.
herself. Yeah, yeah, they were losing money. And I was like, we need to get to the nitty gritty, to the details. What are you doing? So what I did
Mm.
was I did an analysis by vehicle because they had like 10, 15 vehicles to see, okay. And the problem was some vehicles made money, like a lot of money, and then other vehicles lost money. So this vehicle may be bringing you in, $300,000 a year, in revenue, but every mile you drive it, you're losing 10 cents. So it's actually a loser. And then these other vehicles are the ones bringing it in. So I told him, if you want this, it's almost better to have less revenue and have better margins than to have a lot of revenue and no margins and not able to pay yourself and worried about making payroll every week. So I told him, you need to really focus on what's working for you and the cars that's working, and the cars that aren't working, that aren't making money, get rid of them.
Right. Well,
Cut
I
cut
think
your
the higher
losses and move
lesson
on.
is that, don't focus on the vanity, the revenue, but really, let's focus on your net income.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to know, like, just because it's a big deal doesn't mean you have to know your margins and if it's going to make you money or not.
So let's talk a little bit about the conversation that we had about margins. And to simplify the whole matter is like you do a really good job of educating your clients on how to speak financial languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to simplify it, a lot of small business owners are really put off or possibly even like scared of their finances because they don't understand it or they literally don't want to know about it. They just want to wake up every day, try as hard as they can, and hopefully they have money at the end of the day. But like, let's talk about profit margins to begin with. In simplicity, right? You mentioned to me there is really only gross, there's operation, and then there's net, right? And by segmenting that, you can quickly understand where your strengths and weaknesses are and then make changes to the business to make it better. Is that correct? Is it that simple
Correct.
to look at 3 different margins and start to learn how to dissect your company and make it better on the regular?
Yes, it is that easy to dissect, especially if you're working in a service-based business, to be able to say, okay, am I making money or am I not, making money? And in your business, you really should know in your industry, what is the lowest possible acceptable margin? Is it 5%? Is that normal? Is it 20%? And you need to know, because when you get there and it's getting low, am I doing something wrong? Do I need to change something? But how will you ever know if you're just living day to day?
And more importantly, it gets back to, which is fantastic. It's every fantastic guest we've had has always stated you got to define what your vision is, right? And as part of your vision, your financial vision says, I want to generate X. What percent of my revenue should be my gross margin, right? And that should be part of your vision, is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
That is correct. You have to be specific. I don't think you can have growth and success if you're not specific about what you want and where you need to head, and then monitoring to make sure you're hitting those levels.
When I applaud your bravery, right? Not everybody has this, but you actually, for your own business model, acknowledged something that wasn't working and went the full distance to literally change your whole model, let go your whole staff, rebuild so that you did have a model worth putting the time, money, and effort into. I find a lot of small businesses, and I'm sure you do as well, that even if they understand the model has problems, it's, do you have the strength and can you hold yourself accountable for actually making the hard choices, making those decisions to change the model so that it is hitting the margins that you want? Do you find that a lot?
Yes, I find that a lot. And I know it's a cliche, but you're only as strong as like your weakest team member. And I think the two biggest hesitations I see with people is one, they're hesitant to really lean in and see their numbers because they're scared that they're not as smart as they. I've literally heard people say, "Well, if I look at my numbers and they're bad, that means I'm not as smart as I think I am." No, that means you're a human and you need to just grow and learn more. And the second thing, keeping weak staff. One person can destroy a whole company. As soon as it's not working out, let it go.
Yes. Or in terms of like the transportation company that you were talking about, right? There is no need to take on routes that make you no money. Like if
Correct.
something is like literally taking away from your company or like not making you profit, eliminate them. Is that correct? Right? Like, I mean, I know that
Yes.
there's probably a little more complexity, but it gets that simple, right? Like, what are
Yeah.
my winners? How do I keep those or make more of them? And all the ones that are actually like a drag, let's get rid of it, correct?
Yeah, and I say, and part of me, that's how you know what to niche in, right? That's how I chose my niche. Honestly, I looked at all of my clients, which ones had the best margins and stuff for me, and I leaned into that and I really tried to nurture and grow that. And I think that's what everyone should do. If it's not making you money, let it go and lean into the parts that are. It may not be your favorite part or the part you thought it was going to be, but what's most important, at least in my opinion, is being able to have the money and thrive versus not having it and having to shut down or file
Yeah.
bankruptcy or
Right?
any,
And
something
you're
of
and
that
you're applying
nature.
that same philosophy towards employees as well. If it's working out great. If it's not, let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the saying that it's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? But I think that there's another extra to that, and that is you really need to take in account of how much effort and complexity it adds to your personal and professional life when you say yes to client acquisitions. So even if it makes decent money or it does not make decent money, the next question that you ask is, if I say yes or commit to it, what ramifications does that have behind it? How does it affect me and my entire team? How does it affect my professional and personal life once I do say yes? Right? Are you going through the throes of going that deep with some of your clients and really talking about different scenarios and ramifications behind it?
Of course, right? No two clients are the same. So these
Mm,
two clients may give you the same amount, but based off conversations and talking, this client may give you the same amount, but expect you to be around the clock, take calls at 2 a.m., and just take over your whole life. Or this other client may pay the same amount, but they don't. They will respect your boundaries, they will give you the data that you need, and they will work directly with you. So it's a lot more than just how much, it's a lot more than that. This is my niche and this is how much I charge. Also, what is all going to be included in that? And what is going to be
mm.
the expectation of this new client that you're taking on?
Love that. Adam, did you have a question you want to add, and then maybe we'll do
Yeah,
that final
so
question?
one of the things, and we can talk about this for a minute, is which I also thought was fascinating from an ownership perspective, is that a lot of times when you're working with the nonprofits, they don't manage the grant correctly. Like to me, that just blew my mind. Like this is your lifeline. How is that possible?
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but nonprofits get money and they get grant funding, right?
Mhm.
And there's a couple layers. And one thing is you have to turn in your grant reports monthly. You don't A lot of grants, you don't just write it and they give you the money. No. Let's say you want $1 million grant, but in order to get this grant, you have to fill out paperwork and pull down on it every month. And a lot
So
of
there's monthly compliance
yeah, yeah,
requirements
and a
which
lot of
can apply
nonprofits.
to a ton of things.
Correct. And that's one thing I was able to help a client do is not just that, and the other end is you have to have your books clean and you have to submit financial reports that has nothing to do with the grant. And if you don't do that, the government will put you on a stop payment list. And I've had multiple clients where I met them able to clean up their books and bring them up to date. So even if you do turn in your report, you still won't get paid if you're on a stop payment list. So it's a lot more than grant management, and it's also making sure your books are closed and turned in timely to the government.
Excellent. All right, Tom, a little more pressure again. Let's bring us home. Final question, and then we'll get her contact information and conclude another great episode.
Yeah. LaMichelle, thanks a lot for being here today. One more question for our audience. I always ask this question, maybe slightly different way, but if you were to leave our audience with just one thing to take away from this message that you have today, what would it be?
It would be is revenue is cute, fun, whatever, but that is not what's most important in your business. What's most important is the bottom line and knowing your numbers and making sure you have good margin so you can continue to thrive and grow your business.
That's perfect. Well, listen,
That's
it
excellent.
looks like you can add a ton of value to all different types of organizations out there. If somebody's interested in having a deeper discussion with you, how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can find me on most social media, either under LaMichelle CPA or Overhead Solutions Group. And you can also find me on my website, overheadsolutionsgroup.com.
Outstanding. We want to thank you very much for being such a great guest.
Thank you, and thanks so much for having me.